I was thinking about this, and I think I even talked about it a little bit. There seems to be. I think I was thinking about the notion of like a correlation between power, wealth, nice stuff, and competency. And I think I've come down to the notion of maybe there's some correlation, or there can be a correlation, right? I think there are good ways to make that sort of stuff and maintain it. I think there's a ditch to fall off on either side of that, where you have people who are like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And on some level, I like the notion of trying to help other people, even if they don't necessarily deserve it as such. I like the notion of trying to help out people who are less fortunate than you. But I also think that if your life is going to be better and to stay better, it's going to be because you are able to make or maintain it at that level. It's not like you can be like, you're going to have a good life and you're going to enjoy. Like, no. You have to be able to maintain that level of discipline or that level of whatever. You can't force that upon an adult being. And you can train a kid that way, perhaps, but, like, not so much when people get older. On the other end of the thing, it seems like you have a lot of people who, perhaps with due consideration to one's intersectional pedigree, would like to look at people who have nice things and say, nah, they didn't earn it. They didn't earn it. They have it, but they didn't earn it. Right? I believe it was that AOC woman who had been on a podcast recently and had said something to the effect that there's no way to earn $1 billion. You can't earn $1 billion. Like, I'm a little bit suspect of that group of people writ large. In spite of the fact that nothing makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside, rather than hearing wealthy people talk about uber wealthy people in a very self-righteous manner. I don't know if I trust her opinion on this. But I do tend to think there are good ways to get nice stuff, I guess. I think there are a number of ways to get it. You can either earn it on some level, or you can build it, or you can inherit it, or you can steal it, or you can luck into it. Now, of those, only the first two would necessarily entail some sort of virtue, right? And I think because they entail some sort of virtue, it bodes well for your ability to maintain those nice things over an extended period of time. With regards to the other stuff, like I think I mentioned this before, financial dynasties aren't really a thing. And maybe some of that's just because, that ability to accrue wealth has a lot to do with perhaps the occupation of the individual involved and having like a extended like generation after generation of people who can continue to earn that money is maybe less so, but like they have the money initially, so you would think they would be able to invest it or something. It does seem like there's just this level of incompetency that seeps into it because they didn't earn it. In addition to that, you have people who steal it, and it feels like inevitably those organizations that they steal, the legacies that they weasel their way into, they stagnate and wither away because the people who did it, they don't have the competency or creativity to maintain it or build upon it. Beyond that, you have the notion of like lotto winnings owners with regards to luck. They tend to lose their money very, very quickly. And there might be a selection bias there because the type of people who play the lottery, I'm going to guess, are not the types of people who are really good with money. Again, does power, does wealth, do nice things have anything to do with competency? They can. It can have to do with competency. There can be a correlation there. Anyways, enough of this drivel. Moving on, we have some stuff to watch. Alright, this is a video by Oompaville. Nazis went digging for a hidden race. Because who doesn't love Nazis? Sorry, I don't. Because I'm not that sort of person. Alright, let's get into this.
Paris, France, 1886. Alexandre Santive Delvedra is standing over the only finished copies of the book he just finished writing.
He's a French guy. I guess French can be Nazis too.
and he is about to destroy them all. The whole edition is stacked in front of him, years of his life freshly off the press, and he gives the order to wipe it clean off the face of the earth. Every copy pulped, scrapped, and gone before a single stranger can open and read what's inside. Out of the entire print run, only
The plot thickens.
2 copies survive. One the printer secretly kept, and one Santiv took home and hid. So the question is, what do you put in a book that makes you spend your own money to erase it the moment that you make it real?
I mean, French. Those guys are all unstable anyways.
A kingdom is the answer. A kingdom that Santiv swore existed.
Wait. Macabre murders unsolved. Grave secrets unearthed. Because they're grave.
Hidden deep under the surface of the earth and older than every nation on the map, ruled by a king who could read any human
Verified-ish. Is this new?
mind like a page. Santiv believed in it completely to the very end of his life, and the instant he'd written it all down where anybody could read it, something about it frightened him so badly he decided to take
It's a little bit strange. Like, you put so much effort and money into, like,
it all back in fear.
seems a bit capricious.
Santiv never explained why, but whatever
Quixotic, even.
he thought he had touched did not stay buried with him, because half a century later, the most dangerous regime in human history went looking for it at the bottom of the world. And
So that makes sense. It's like he wasn't actually a Nazi. This would have been like, 50 years before that.
this is a video about that kingdom. Its name is Agartha. It is one of the strangest strings
The world is flat, and that's it.
that I have ever pulled on.
Is this type? I think this is a type of flat earther thing, right?
Because the further down the string you go, the bigger the names get, and the more things start adding up, I guess, if you are an insane person, maybe. This is
How dare you, sir?
truly a ridiculous and scary and absurd rabbit hole. Please, come along with me. If you're new, hit the subscribe button. You're gonna want to stick around for what's next. If you're old, may God have mercy on you. Comment down below what you want to see me cover in the next video.
See, like, it is kind of strange. I guess it's just because it's an unfamiliar environment. It all seems so real. Also, maybe it's just because people come up with new ways to deceive people. You would think old people would be better at smelling out scams online, but I think a lot of times they kind of fall for it. And again, it's kind of a thing that they don't really know a lot about. So like, it's one of those things until you know what a thing is, it can be anything. It leaves a lot open to the wonder and the guilelessness of it all.
And this one
I think
starts with one obscure Frenchman. Then a Russian running for his life. Then a respected philosopher. Then a world-famous novelist.
There's a Russian running for his
Then
life.
a Russian running for his life. Then a respected philosopher. Then a world-famous novelist. Then the woman who basically invented modern occultism, and then eventually
Which?
the SS, the Nazis. For 150 years,
So whatever reason, I thought SS just meant Secret Service, and I think that's what it was, but I'm not sure if that's what SS actually means. It's like Schutzstaffel something, I think.
people have hunted this place. A handful of them
I was disappointed.
swore that they found the door, but not one of them ever came back with a single brick. Maybe that's because it's being hidden. It's being suppressed. It's obfuscated. My favorite word. Either way, the evidence
Obfuscated.
has caused lots of people to believe it, and the lack of evidence
I don't know if I have a favorite word. I like all the words equally. Well, no, that's not true. Some sound better. Some are just nice to say. They're kind of pleasant.
has pretty much not stopped anybody.
I wonder what makes it. I've theorized that the type of language a person's parents or ancestors might have spoken would actually kind of go into maybe how a person's mouth or stuff will develop. I have a theory that there might even be genetic components involved in taste. but make like different racial groupings have different tastes for different things. I feel like that's pretty intuitive. Like, again, like the way you use your mouth and the language you would speak would affect it. Because it is strange, like, think about this sometime. I've noticed that, like, second generation Indians or whatever, it's almost like, I don't know if there's a tendency for them to, even if they don't really have an accent per se, they have a certain lilt to the way they talk. I was thinking of Kamal something. So, some comedian. There's just a certain, like, I don't even know if he's technically, maybe I think he's from Pakistan, actually. But it does feel like there's a certain lilt to the way some Indian, like, second generation Indians speak English. And I wonder if it would have to do with that, the way they actually develop their facial muscles or something like that, ancestrally speaking, would have to do with how they pronounce words. It's kind of strange.
From believing it, including supposedly the men running Nazi Germany. There's a ton of information about this on the internet, so I did my best to capture as much as I could and put it in one cohesive bundle. In terms of books, my library card's expired, and honestly, I can't really read. So the only book that I could really...
I can read. I choose not to. No, I still read some.
find that...
Mostly, though, I listen to, like, audiobooks and what stuff. No, yeah. And whatnot like that.
Traces the whole sort of thing from end to end is a very strange, out of
I'm thinking, though, it would probably be better to actually read the stuff, because I do tend to think that there's the notion would be that you're both looking at the words and I think the notion would be that if you read stuff out loud, especially, or if you write stuff down, it maybe helps it stick in your memory, because you're kind of absorbing it through multiple thingies. You're absorbing it through multiple thingies.
Book from 1993 by a scholar named Jocelyn Godwin. He called it Arctos, and the place that this stops just being a weird old book and strange legend and story and starts being something a government would send ships and men to go find is Antarctica, and that's where we're going first. You guys know that I love...
Arctic, Antarctic. So Antarctica, that's at the bottom, right? That's the one that's actually a landmass.
Of Antarctica, all right. There's something up there, or down there, rather. There's...
I knew better.
Something down there. It's bullshit. I'm going down there one of these days. The men who built the Nazi movement in the early 20th century weren't only...
Hitler's on ice in Antarctica. Rumors on imagination spree. What the... Buenos Aires, July 13th and July 18th. Imaginations have had a field day during the past 48 hours in Argentina. So, wait, so that's why they were in Argentina? There was a whole thing where a lot of Nazis went to South America. Maybe that was why. I don't know if they'd set up bases there or whatever. With a speculation that if Hitler may have crossed the Antarctic in a submarine. Argentine government clamped down on such excited thinking, declared there was absolutely no factual basis for the reports. The government announced that they would deliver the recently interned German U-boat 530 to the U.S. and Great Britain as recommended by the Foreign Ministry following an investigation. Unconfirmed reports said that said that two more Nazi submarines had been sighted off the Argentinian coast while the public amused themselves speculating on the possibility that some high Nazis might have been landed by the U-53 along the desolate shores of Patagonia. So far, only the newspaper La Gazeta has openly implied that Hitler and his sweetheart Eva Braun might have landed in Hitler's Antarctic Birch Island in the Antarctic Circle. The paper had a map with the caption, Hitler refuged on the sixth continent. Fancy that. Well, there was some sort of thing recently where I think it supposedly hit 100 degrees in the Arctic Circle. Fancy that? Global warming. We're all gonna die.
Obsessed with conquering the real known world that actually exists, but a surprising number of them were obsessed with a world that supposedly doesn't exist. Before the party ever held any
Or so the Globetards want you to believe.
real power, it grew up tangled together with a whole subculture of German occult societies and groups that taught that the German people were the last living remnant of an ancient master race. You've probably heard
Feels good to be part of the master race. Well, I don't even know. Probably-ish.
of that idea
Probably-ish part of the master race.
before, a race that had come down out of the lost paradise in the frozen north, and that the secret of that race's godlike power was still out there somewhere. Probably not to the north, but rather down south, because Antarctica is down south. The north has just got Santa up there, and that shit was just waiting to be dug up, they thought. And the story
At what point, like, I know there was St. Nicholas. At what point did Santa become a denizen of the northerly pole? Like, at what point did the historical things, like, put him up there? I guess it was just an easy way of, like, keeping the dream alive in the minds of kids, perhaps? So they'd probably ask, like, oh, where does he live? Well, not somewhere you can visit, kiddo. Well, it's not until you get older.
that has been told for the better part of a century is that when the Nazis finally went hunting for it, they went to the one place on Earth that almost no human had ever set foot, Antarctica. Schwabenland! In the winter of 1930.
What the what? So that's what they called it. Schwabenland. Does it just literally mean Southland? Well, no. This is... So this is technically a part of Antarctica. This is the Südpol. So no, it doesn't mean South. I'm assuming this is South Pole, right? New Schwabenland. So this is something that was in Germany that they just created a new version of it. I guess we can't talk. A lot of the states and whatnot and crap were named after European stuff.
Hitler's government sent a secret expedition to the bottom of the world. A ship called the Schwabenland,
Bottom.
with seaplanes catapulted right off its deck. And as they flew, the crew dropped heavy metal lawn darts stamped with the swastika into the ice below, claiming a slice of the continent and renaming it New Schwabia. That is real. That is documented history. That's in the record. I'm not making that up for clicks and wipes. I'm all about wiping now. Swiping. And the legend that grew up around it says that they were
Oh, it's adorable. Let's kill it.
not down there for the ice or the cute little penguins or even the land. They were hunting for
You just left the seals out of it? Those guys are
a
adorable.
door, a way into a kingdom that supposedly sat beneath the surface of the planet. And that kingdom is Agartha. And if you take the believers at their word, it is an entire civilization with millions and
For whites and by whites.
millions and millions of people
Ruled by its king, the mass.
by the most repeated
I take it back. It's a monarchy. I don't trust that no matter how white it is.
count online that you can find 800 million in cities lit by their own underground sun, with universities and aircraft and a web of tunnels
How delightful.
running under the whole world. Already doing all of that while we were up here trying to get filament to not explode when we put it in a light bulb. And at the center of all of it, a throne and a ruler the believers call the king of the world. A being who they say can read any human soul like an open page. And the source of the whole kingdom's power.
Okay, this is getting crazier. Now, initially, I just thought this was a nice place for white people to live, and we could go to get away from all of the darkness. Sorry.
The thing
It's getting weirder, though. It's getting a lot weirder.
that supposedly lets them heal a dying man 1 minute and level a city the next minute is an energy its masters run straight through their own bodies, and the believers have a name for it. They call it Vril, like krill, but with a V and with
This seems very extensive. Very complex.
much deeper ties to white
Very fleshed out as a conspiracy theory.
supremacy. That, the story says, is what the Nazis were really chasing down under the ice. The lost energy type of battery of an ancient master race. What's crazy is that I've heard so much of this stuff growing up and spending time on the internet and hearing people talk about it. Like they have the Acorn, the Glockenspiel. I don't think that's what it's called, but Nazi
Not sure what a glockenspiel actually is.
occultism is very interesting, and they believed in some wild shit. I love the images of a
Meledith Lake.
Gartha, by the way. It is really
Okay, that's just mean.
funny to me. There's also
All right, okay, am I tripping?
the
That
images of Agartha, by the way. It is
is supposed to be Charlie Kirk, right? I'm just saying that like maybe I'm the goofy one there. That looks like Charlie Kirk to me, though.
really funny to me. There's also a prophecy, and that
I think you would laugh at it, probably.
prophecy is ticking down and will come into effect apparently in the year 2030, which is in 4 years or something. You see, the lore
Y'all 3.5 or something? I don't know.
says the kingdom left
No, he's right. Something like that. I don't know. Yeah, 3.5 because we're halfway through 2026. I was thinking wrong, but I was right. So I was thinking somehow this is 2027. No, this is 2026. Next year is
the surface people, us, a prophecy more than a century ago. There would be 50 years of chaos, then a stretch of false peace, then one final war. And at the end of it, the people of the kingdom would come up out of the ground and take the surface back. Kind of like that video game where those mole people came out of the ground or whatever.
Don't remember that.
That shit was on Xbox. I don't have any other memories beyond that. Now, how much of this is
Do you know what? Actually, it's completely tangent. You know that PlayStation discontinued disc drives or whatever, like, or physical hardware, which is like I think it's one of the dumbest moves you could possibly do. Like, and maybe I'm the crazy one here, but I just feel like one of the things that kind of set them apart, that made them a option for people, was that they did have physical media, right? They were the other option because they had physical media. That was a huge advantage to them. They're one of the few, platforms out there that were still going with that. And now that they're not doing that anymore, they're just like any other platform. And like, the question is, can they compete with other platforms? Like PC, as far as digital media, is pretty dang good, right? As far as like customizability. And I'm pretty sure with regards to just like the consoles themselves, like PCs outstrip them in every conceivable metric. I think they're starting to do like exclusives again, which I think that's some sort of gimmick to get people on PlayStation. But again, like, I feel like they already had that gimmick, and that gimmick was physical media. At least a huge part of it was. Huge part of that appeal to consoles was, hey, guess what? We can buy stuff in disc form and just own the game. What's wrong with you? Why would you do this to yourselves?
true? Take a guess right now. We're gonna get all the way to the bottom of it, I promise. Okay, guys? But first, to understand why any modern-ish government would take any of it seriously enough to send an entire ship and crew, you gotta actually understand where the idea of this kingdom came from. The idea of an underground civilization, not just Agartha, specifically, or Asgartha, or...
Okay, American pipe dream. That makes sense.
Asgard.
That's funny.
Or whatever the other names it has. It's a pretty big idea that
Okay.
Asgard idea this kingdom came from. The idea of an underground civilization, not just Agartha, specifically, or Asgartha, or Asgard, or whatever the other names it has. It's a pretty big idea that a ton of civilizations and cultures have pondered. The idea of an underworld. The Greeks, the Hindi people.
Was that what Journey to the Center of the Earth was about? Was it something else? As it says, maybe there are multiple renditions of that.
Had one called, I forget what it was called. It starts with a P, though. But specifically with Agartha, it comes
Hades? No,
from the
that's That's something else.
that we opened this video with, the fella who wrote it all down and then tried to just take it back, I guess. He had some severe guilt over
It's a goofy haircut. I guess there's no accounting for fashion. Just changes.
or something like that. So let's go back to Santiv, alone with that doomed book. The book was called Mission de India, his mission from India. And in it, he laid out Agartha in astonishing detail. This guy was like the Tolkien of the French. A hidden land
Populations.
beneath the surface ruled, in Godwin's words, the person who wrote the book back in 1993, by a supreme pontiff of Ethiopian race styled the Brahmata, with millions of subjects, a secret society of masters that Santiv believed really should be running the world, with a system he called Synarchy, which is ruled by an enlightened council working from the shadows. And he said that he
Some commie gobbledygook. Sorry.
knew all of this because a
I don't know. It just sounds kind of.
mysterious teacher had appeared in his life, taught him a lost sacred language, and then vanished. And when Godwin later on went looking for who that
Sure, it wasn't kind of a nut bar.
teacher actually was,
Some crackpot. I don't know.
the most he could conclude was, nobody knows. But anyways, this is still
Sorry.
he could conclude was, nobody knows.
Because they burned it all. Huh?
But anyways, this was still taken very seriously by the Nazis and then us allegedly after World War II. So it's still worth talking about, okay? Also, Santiv wasn't even first. Godwin traced the word Agartha itself back 13 years earlier. By the way, at that point, that was the first time the word had ever been uttered by anybody. It was originally traced to a French judge named Louis Jacoliot, who in 1873 wrote about an ancient lost city that he spelled as Gartha, based on manuscripts that conveniently no other living person has ever managed to
That's Asgarth.
find.
Sounds like a very terrible. No, I'm thinking of Agatha. So I was just thinking of like a really terrible female name. There's some names that just, I don't know why or how, but they just sound like a frumpy, middle-aged woman. Agatha being one of them. Esther. I don't know.
This guy was like the Joseph Smith of
I
France.
don't know why or how, but maybe it's just the people you know that have that name. But
And Jacoliot City was not underground. Santiv took Jacoliot City, buried it underground, and then filled it in with more lore. And then Godwin obviously wrote about all this many, many, many years later. Given all of this, Godwin, a careful scholar, did not think that Santiv was lying. A con man would have tried to sell the secret. Santiv tried to erase the secret, and Godwin comes down on the side of belief. He writes, I believe that Santiv did see what he described, and that he did not consider himself to the slightest degree to be writing fiction, which makes the burning book stranger, not less strange.
it is a little bit strange. I guess yeah. You would have to clarify some sort of motivation for burning the book as to why. Maybe they're insane, but maybe they genuinely believed it. Maybe they thought there was some truth there. Maybe they were wrong, or maybe they were right.
So this is just a really confusing tale overall. Then, quite a few years later, in 1922,
No, people make similar. I guess I was thinking of the parallel between, like, the notion of what happens in the Bible. Obviously, you have people claiming to see God resurrected. And there are some pretty logical arguments with regards to that as to, like, the afterlives of the apostles, of the people involved. They didn't exactly gain a lot of clout off the back of Jesus dying and coming back from the dead. They were actually quite, a lot of them were persecuted. I think there were a lot of them that were martyred. It's the saying that liars make poor martyrs. So the notion is that if you do something like that, if you're willing to die for an idea, it's quite likely that at the very least you believe it's the case. All right? So in this case, obviously you have a guy who claims to have seen something, who doesn't necessarily want to make money off of it. At least on the face of it, that's what it seems like. So either he believes it and he's insane, or he's right, or there's some mixture, or maybe there's some unknown third element involved. Maybe the government got to him. Some crap, I don't know.
The story had its second witness, and finally the prophecy. A Polish scientist named Ferdynand Ossendowski. By the way, we have 3 credible...
Here's a question. Why did Polish jokes become a thing? And why do we no longer hear them?
Men here, so far. 3 very credible people.
Let's just remember the Polish karate chop. You can like the video if you know what that... No, I don't know. It's, yeah.
Sure, it was the 1800s. You could just lie about shit. You know, you could pad your resume with whatever
It's not something you discuss in mixed company.
you wanted, but we got 3.
It's not... Yeah, I guess it's not really vulgar per se. It's just not polite.
Legit guys with real good titles here. It's pretty impressive. So basically what I'm saying is it's probably real. Maybe, I don't know. Probably not, but maybe. Ossendowski was fresh off a genuine harrowing escape across Mongolia during the Russian Civil War. He was escaping the evil Bolsheviks. The man came home and wrote...
Yeah. Screw the proletariat.
A bestseller in which the local lamas had supposedly told him about a buried kingdom. He spelled it Agarty. 800 million subjects, a king of the world, and the prophecy. The one with the clock on it that ends in 2030. That all comes straight out of his book. In the 50th year, only 3 great kingdoms will appear, which will exist happily 71 years. Afterwards, there will be 18 years of war and destruction. Then the peoples of Agarty will come up from their subterranean caverns to the surface of the earth.
They're really rolling his R's there. You know, I can't do that, unfortunately. My tongue is long enough, so maybe I'm just envious, but it feels like he's playing into it a little bit.
End quote. That was a real recording of his voice. And get this, guys!
It's kind of fun. There's this, David and Mitchell thing. It's like a sketch comedy bit where they were doing, like, they were somehow recreating the voices of these classic poems, or, I think it was Lord Byron's Charge the Light Brigade or something like that. Stormed out with soft and shell into the gates of death. He was just doing like the craziest over the top rendition of these old poems. It was kind of funny.
Ossendowski swore he had never read Santiv's version, which is pretty interesting. The 2 versions are very similar. Same name, pretty much, same general ideas, and those 2 versions have sat so closely together that real, genuine scholars have argued about it for 100 years. There's a pattern to this, you're probably starting to understand. Every new eyewitness to this ancient secret shows up right after the last man's book hits the shelves.
Huh.
Genius!
Sorry.
Real, genuine scholars have argued about it for 100 years. There's a pattern to this, you're probably starting to understand. Every new eyewitness to this ancient secret shows up right after the last man's book hits the shelves. Genius! And by 1927, a serious French philosopher, René Guénon, had recast Agartha as a symbolic spiritual center of the world, which made it pretty bulletproof, because you can't really mount an expedition to a spiritual metaphor, you know? You do, no matter what, you just come home empty-handed. But none of that by itself explains the Nazis' interest in Antarctica or, you know, the underworld civilization. And a lot of it came post-war. A lot of the ties were put together well after. So to understand more of that, you have...
So this is all still before World War II, right? I'm assuming that's the timeline here? This is all still happening, like the French philosopher even is...
to understand the other half of the legend, which is the power, Vril. Vril did not come from a monastery or lost manuscript. It came from a novel. In 1871, the wildly famous...
What the Harry?
English novelist Edward Bulwer Lytton published a science fiction story about a traveler who fell into an underground world ruled by a superior race called the Vrilya. The people that lived there were taller, calmer, and more beautiful than us, and contemptuous of us wielding that all-purpose energy, Vril, and these people fully intended to come up one day and replace us. This was
Scary.
all
I would say scary.
made up. Bulwer Lytton said so himself. He wrote privately that
Yeah. Well, okay, if it's made up, never mind.
he'd meant Vril as a kind of
Still, the whole notion of, people living under us. I have an avid imagination, okay? There's a weird thing about imagination, actually. I did think imagination, the reason we don't really consider it to be authoritative, I guess, is because it almost by necessity, I say by necessity, innately, it tends to warp reality. It tends to alternatively hyperbolize certain aspects and either minimize or completely eliminate others. So it's a little bit strange the way it works, but it's not something that is something we generally take very seriously, I think, because of that, because of the fact that it's not really true to life. It's not like a conceptualization. It's a more loosey-goosey in the way it interprets reality.
imagined electricity, which was developed into uses as
It is intriguing, though. The whole notion of caricatures or stuff like that, like the ways in which a human brain actually warps reality when stuff gets inside. That's very intriguing.
yet only dimly guessed. He just made it all up, like L. Ron Hubbard made up Scientology and the lore behind that. People...
That was interesting. Like, we'd watched that video. L. Ron Hubbard he had wrote a book, and then later on, he was a science fiction writer, and then later on, I think he somehow adopted those novels into a system of beliefs or something.
They've been making shit up for a really long time. I love people making shit up. It's fun. Human lore is the best lore. Did you know rubbing onion on your scalp often makes you fit in better at onion-based social events? So after this guy made that up, the woman who built modern occultism, who made a lot of stuff up, got a hold of it. Helena Blavatsky.
Which?
Godwin called her the most fecund source of ideas on our subject. By the way, fecund, one of my favorite words of all time. She started writing about Vril as if it were just real, and taught that humanity had
I have to look that one up. I don't actually know what that means.
passed through a series of root races, one of which had come from a lost homeland in the far north, a polar paradise, a superior people. You might notice that I keep saying north, but Antarctica is south, and the Nazis went south, New Swabia. There's a lot of overlap. The north and south difference is kind of, it's obviously very different. They're literally opposites, but they both connect. See what I'm saying?
I get it.
See
No, I don't get it. It's weird, but
what I'm saying? It makes sense. So a made-up energy and a made-up
no, it doesn't.
master race were both promoted into ancient occult fact. It's way easier to make shit
Well, I think Hitler, in spite of being very critical, I think of at least Christianity, I think he was quite critical of that. But I think he was really into the occult. I suppose they're not mutually exclusive.
up back in these times. Still just as fun though. Now, take all that, look at what it becomes in the hands of, the Nazis. A handful of Austrian and German occultists took Blavatsky's northern modern race and turned it into something a lot more extreme. The belief that the true master race was a bloodline of blonde, blue-eyed god-men that descended from a vanished polar civilization, and one of those German-Austrian men ran an occult order that admitted only blonde, blue-eyed members, but a lot of those guys...
They're all jaundiced. I don't know.
they looked
I think blonde hair and blue eyes are technically both recessive, but I think actually red hair and blue eyes would maybe be more rare.
straight up inbred. The poster child
I think there are a lot of people who would have blonde hair as kids, but then they kind of lose it as they get older or something. It becomes dirty blonde or something like that.
of the Aryan Nazi master race movement looks nothing like the average high-ranking Nazi. I mean, what?
Sorry. it's a little bit funny. Sorry, Charlie Kirk. Respect to the dead.
Is this, dude?
Again, I think he would probably laugh at it too.
I mog all of these syphilis.
Wait, so maybe this is me being offensive to Charlie. That looks like Charlie to me.
Infected incels.
Apparently, Mogged is here to stay.
I'm German. Let me check my 23andMe, just so you guys know that I'm allowed to talk about this. Oh shit, I have a highly increased likelihood of PTSD, apparently. Since when does it tell me health?
How can you have a likelihood of PTSD? Like, I assume PTSD is just something that I kind of assume PTSD was something that was just universal that you would get if you were through like a really traumatic event. But maybe there are people who have a potential for that traumatic reaction to a greater degree. And just notice his hat is corduroy. I don't know how I feel about that.
Stuff. This is not good. I'm gonna spiral. 40 out of 100 people with genetics like yours have been diagnosed with PTSD by their 40s? I think I'm fine. Probably. And all this fed straight into a Munich group founded in 1918 called the
Thule-Gesellschaft.
Thule Society, or I thought it was for a long time Thule, but researching it, it's Thule.
I feel let down.
Which is weird. It looks like Thule. And their real, very documented importance is pretty simple and pretty chilling.
So it's like a wacky swastika, right? That's what this is, right? It's just a...
I guess is a good word. It bankrolled the tiny political party at the time that a young Adolf Hitler would walk into, take over, and rebuild into the Nazi party. You can probably see why this specific fantasy caught this specific regime. They had a hidden master race, a lost northern homeland. They went to the south to find stuff in the south or what. I don't know. It's a lot of weird speculation, but you know, secret godlike powers. To them, this was not LARPing or some kind of bedtime story. To them, it was a look in the mirror. They looked in the mirror and didn't see this.
Shit is wrong. Okay, we'll edit on this. This guy looks like some sort of stupid, pudgy schoolboy. Maybe it's just because they're like super tight shorts or whatever the crap, but dude. I thought the Nazis were supposed to be snappy dressers. This just looks ridiculous. And I don't like the look of his knees. You ever watch complete tangent again? Do you ever watch Jeeves and Wooster? There's a fellow called Roderick Spode, who I believe kind of styled himself after fascist dictator type things. And he runs a group of people called the Black Shorts, I think. Which again, I'm pretty sure that's styled after, you know, either I think it's this dude actually. Was this the brown shorts or brown shirts or something? I think that was Hitler's thing. Anyway, so you guys can go watch the rest of this if you want. Interesting, intriguing sort of thing. What are the rest here? The Real Secret Antarctica Operation High Jump. Yeah, go check out the rest of that if you want. All right, moving on. Video by Patrick CC. Video by Patrick CC about short dude, dwarf, or midget. I'm not sure which. Peter Dinklage. I'm thinking he's an actual full-on dwarf. I think midget is the one that's kind of half a dwarf, or like they have normal proportions in a certain part or something. I think Peter Dinklage is an actual dwarf. Yeah, the backlash against Peter Dinklage is insane. I know a while back he had gotten in trouble for saying stuff about Snow White because it was kind of, he was saying that they're so stupid that they're having these, it's like stupid backward stuff that they're having, you know, dwarf actors in Snow White or whatever, the latest rendition of it. And they ended up not having real dwarfs. I think they ended up using CGI dwarfs. Perhaps in part due to this. And it was seen by a lot of people as, okay, you're a really popular actor. I think he played in Game of Thrones, amongst other things. He's a really popular actor in Hollywood, and he's pulling the ladder up after him. And people were just, I think a lot of the people in the little people community were pissed at him. So, great voice though. Great voice.
After one small comment on a podcast, Peter Dinklage managed to piss off nearly every little person in Hollywood.
You, Peter Dinklage. Piece of
Are you
Aw, they're adorable.
watching Dinklage? Do you know? Do you know that you took work away from me?
Peter became one of the most respected actors of his generation by refusing to let Hollywood
I've gotten the idea that Peter Dinklage is pretty sensitive about his height as well, which I guess I've never been put in that position.
reduce him to the stereotypical roles little
I'm
people
like,
often get. But since he has reached the pinnacle of success in the industry, he may have forgotten just how many dwarf actors are still relying on those exact
it's supposed to be Harry Potter, right?
jobs to survive. Or maybe
Actually, I'm trying to remember what these types of things were. I think it was meant for like printing press areas or something that would keep stuff out of their eyes or something. Not for sure, like these green types of. There's a word for them, and I don't know what they are.
how many dwarf actors are still relying on those exact jobs to survive. Or maybe he is gatekeeping them to remain on top, because what sounded like him standing up for his community actually may have resulted
Peter Dinklage just put 7 of us out of a job. Dwarf actors fury at Disney for canceling 7 dwarfs from Snow White remake because the woke multimillionaire Game of Thrones stars said they were offensive. Ay. There's a mosquito. Sorry.
in Hollywood erasing little people from the screen entirely. It's so bad that it's being compared to by some little people as the quote physical version of blackface. As an
That is kind of a little bit strange the way that works.
aspiring actor with achondroplasia, Dinklage was determined to avoid low-hanging fruit opportunities that might have helped his career. He said, "I was in an office for quite some time, longer than I should have been, but I was terrified of not being able to pay the bills. I was turning down acting roles, which weren't really acting roles, commercials and stuff like that. So I just stayed in this cubicle for a few
Okay. I could understand that, but just because one chooses that for themselves doesn't mean you should. I don't know. I don't know how well I would feel about being cast as a, quote, dwarf actor. It's kind of hard for me to conceptualize that, but you could imagine, like, it being, like, typecast as something that you like, kind of in an ignoble way, perhaps. That wouldn't be the most wonderful thing ever.
years. Dinklage started out in a very common position that a lot of little people confront when aspiring to be actors. Most were traditionally cast for fantasy roles, which Dinklage found disgusting and cruel. Actors with
I don't know if I'd say disgusting and cruel.
dwarfism are relegated to being creatures. They're not really complex human beings, so I was not really interested in that. But ultimately, he knew his career wouldn't take off unless he made a few compromises. There were a number of films that he starred in where his dwarfism contributed to the role, but he wasn't being paraded around as a creature or prop. Instead, he was able
I guess it's maybe better.
to show more emotional depth, with dwarfism just being a part of the character, like how he starred as a defeated actor in the dark meta-comedy Living in Oblivion with Steve Buscemi. Buscemi recommended him for a role in Alexander Rockwell's comedy 13 Moons when
That's nice of him.
Dinklage couldn't find an agent, and it was with this exposure that Dinklage was able to show who he really was. Rockwell openly talked about how his first impressions disappeared the second he got to know him. "You might come in with some luggage about Peter's physicality," Rockwell said. "Right away, he cuts right through that. You're thinking, he's a dwarf, but
He's a dwarf.
Peter comes shining through as a personality beyond any kind of diminutive size issue. And pretty much anyone who met Dinklage felt the same way. He was wonderful.
Again, he's got like a crazy good voice. So that's something. It's kind of strange, like, how much that affects your perception of a person. It's like, I think especially with regards to women, like, a very pretty woman can be utterly kneecapped by the fact that she has at least in my mind, she can be kneecapped by the fact that she has some sort of annoying, high-pitched thing going on.
Wonderfully articulate and insightful, and clearly wanted to be seen as more.
Here's a question. This is maybe completely misogynistic on my point, but it does feel like I don't really watch actually a lot of opera, but it does feel like the prima donnas or the first sopranos or whatever, like they do tend to be very large women, and I don't know if there's some sort of rhyme or reason to that. And I only really know one woman that I would consider to be like a she's a really small girl, who's a really great soprano, but like, you know, it seems like in like stuff like that's on a personal level. But it feels like, again, with regards to opera, I'm imagining the first soprano as a rather large woman. I don't know if there's a reason for that, or if there's some correlation there or not.
More than just a tour factor. At the same time, he didn't want his size to be the focus of every conversation.
Feedback.
But when he did...
Now I'm just looking at this in a new light. It feels vaguely salacious. The look, the feet, I don't know.
Speak about little people in Hollywood, his approach was usually thoughtful rather than confrontational. He wasn't publicly attacking others or aggressively calling out studios by name. He simply believed the industry should slowly move beyond using dwarves as simple fantasy characters or visual gimmicks and start giving them the same depth and complexity as any other performer.
Not dangerous, but they're kind of, you know, they're creatures. They're ethereal beings. These dwarves usually are, and then they're asexual. And they're either fools or they're very filled with wisdom and have know all the answers, but a bit removed.
It's true. Like, it feels like a little bit like the magical Negro trope or something like that.
And, you know, they never get the princess. That's fine, but we're in the modern day now, and I think if we still have that, I don't want to throw words like stereotypes out in this interview. I want to avoid that, but you know, it'll just perpetuate itself. And
like, I agree with the notion that it's not nice to be pigeonholed, I guess. But I also think that there are, like, obviously we have a lot of legendarium, a lot of lore in our history of small people, and it does feel like, especially back in the day when CGI wasn't a thing, like, what were you gonna do? Like you could maybe use some sort of camera trick in order to make people look like dwarves, but as it was, you know, gnomes or trolls or, you know, dwarves. I guess, I don't know, dwarves themselves were considered magical creatures that, in some cases, they might have been. Like, the notion is like, yeah, and what are you gonna do? You need someone who can play that role and who can look the part without some sort of fancy tech. I feel like the times that like, it kind of warranted this stereotypical typecasting, perhaps.
And I see it in today's films and pieces of art, you know.
Find the right fuse for your job with thousands of options delivered fast to match exact
I'm not interested in playing those things.
In that clip, you can feel his hesitance, like he was walking a fine line, because in the back of his mind...
That is the thing. I feel like the second people get, like, really popular, they become more assertive. That's where I think sometimes it's good that a lot of people don't have power, because you can see kind of the edges of what they would do if they ever got power. If they were truly capable of just being assertive and getting whatever they wanted, like, what would they actually do with it? Like, I don't know. Impotence is not necessarily, I don't know.
He knew that these stereotypical roles also do give little people consistent jobs in the industry, which is important for them to be able to take to then one day be able to advance their careers. But before we get into that, let's say you're about to jump on a roller coaster and you need someone to watch your wallet, so you hand it to a pickpocket. That's not security, that's a donation. There's a reason you wouldn't trust a pickpocket with your wallet, just like there's a reason why Morgan & Morgan is America's largest intern. Like hiring an army to go into battle. They've got more than one is free unless they win. For more information, you can go to forthepeople.com/Patrick.
There you go. Forthepeople.com. I assume that's his link.
In 2003, Dinklage would get a role as a train enthusiast named Finn McBride in Tom McCarthy's The Station Agent.
Hey, buddy, where's Snow White? Grumpy or sleepy over there, huh?
While having dwarfism was a central point of Peter Dinklage's character, he didn't mind because Finn had the depth he was looking for. The movie was pretty brilliant because it found a way to make you forget about his size until someone abusive confronted him with prejudice. You spent most of the hour and 30 minutes trying to figure out
I already feel mad about that guy.
exactly how he felt. Often roles written for someone my size are a little flat. I love this about this character that Tom wrote. He has this stuff going on. He has romance. He's got romantic feelings. He's got anger, and he's got flaws. I'm not a spokesperson or an activist for people my size. I'm not going to get on my soapbox.
Just FYI, I think also Peter Dinklage's character in Game of Thrones, which was like huge as far as it goes, that was like a universally beloved character. Tyrion. I haven't actually watched Game of Thrones, except for like, highlights and whatnot. Read some of the lore. Intriguing world. I'd mentioned how people's imagination tends to warp reality. The guy who wrote it, what is his name? Oh goodness. He's got a very I think he actually helped write Elden Ring as well, and his style is it's kind of a downer. He's got a very cynical perspective, I think, of people in the world, and it's for me, it's not for me. Okay.
About that stuff. Comical movies starring dwarves such as Austin Powers films, because people can do what they want to do. Sure, it might perpetuate a stereotype, but I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I have a grand time at those movies. I was laughing my butt off at those movies, so I'm not going to cast my judgment upon it. For me personally, that's something I try and stay away from.
See, to me, that is the most balanced, nuanced take you could have. I don't like it. I think it'd be nicer if they had more variety of casting. But I'm not going to, crap on other people for doing so. It feels like his more recent take was that they're still doing this stuff. It's terrible. Like, it was more indignant, perhaps, than this far more reasonable take, in my mind.
From that same year he starred in The Station Agent, Dinklage took another minor role in one of the most iconic...
I remember that. That was funny as all kid. I think he kind of beat the crap out of Will Ferrell at some point because, spoilers, Will Ferrell was an elf. Well, an elf. He's a child who I think accidentally crawled into Santa's bag and ended up at the North Pole and was working with the elves. And he goes into the real world, and obviously Peter Dinklage is short, so he mistakes Peter Dinklage for an elf. It doesn't go well.
Christmas movies of the 21st century. Elf. Every Christmas season, little people in Hollywood get the call to play Santa's helpers, but the movie Elf was different. The only actual dwarf who was cast in the film was Peter Dinklage, and he didn't play an elf, but rather as Miles Finch, a successful children's author. The short scene he's in is simple, yet extremely layered. Buddy, the actual elf, who is 6'3", sees a short man and immediately assumes he must secretly be one of Santa's elves. Not a businessman, not a normal person, just a fantasy creature.
Sorry.
Does Santa know that you left the workshop?
We're all laughing our heads off.
Did you have to borrow a reindeer to get down here?
Buddy not treating him like a regular guy represents the exact frustration Dinklage had spent years dealing with in real life. Also, Peter's character in and of itself seems like a protest against the roles that Hollywood usually offers little people. Instead of playing the magical elf, Dinklage
See, here's the thing. I think this is one of the things that Hollywood is kind of lost, I think, these days. It feels like they are kind of incapable of creating a character who happens to be black, or a character who happens to maybe to be a dwarf, or a character who happens to be gay. Like, if a person is insert intersectional thing, if a person is that characteristic, that's what they are. That is their whole shtick. That is their defining feature. Right? They can only create black characters. They can only create gay characters. They're looking to create whatever characters. They can't create a character who happens to be blank. And that, it feels like that's part of their issue. Like, if this happens to be an incidental characteristic and it comes into this story in an intuitive way, that's a lot more palatable, I think, to most people than some sort of crowbarred, ham-fisted BS. And to me, this was funny. If it was activism, I don't know if that's what they intended it to be, but it was hilarious, and it made the point without hitting it home and reasserting it several times to make sure you got the point. I liked this scene. It was funny as all get out to me.
Plays the man insulted by being mistaken for one, but they still did use his physical stature to make the scene funny. Finch hilariously runs across the table, which seemingly takes him forever, then whips Buddy's ass despite the obvious size disadvantage. And this balance is what made the role feel so representative of Dinklage himself. He never wanted to pretend his dwarfism didn't exist, he just didn't want it to be the only thing people saw when they looked at him. He would take that same approach with his character Tyrion Lannister in Game of
Did I say Tywin? I think it is Tyrion.
Thrones, which launched Peter into mainstream success, making him a full-blown A-list star. When Dinklage found himself talking to the co-creator of Game of Thrones, David Benioff, he was extremely cautious about taking on a fantasy role, but David had actually met Peter at dinner parties and felt he was the obvious choice for Tyrion Lannister. He was always much friendlier to my wife Amanda than he was to me. I knew he was incredibly funny, incredibly smart, and had that caustic wit. Game of Thrones was a TV adaptation of a book written by George R.R. Martin.
That's what it was, George R.R. Martin.
So in that meeting with Benioff,
who I believe hasn't written a book even like remotely recently. He's been, I think, because of the success of Game of Thrones, because of the success of a lot of this stuff, he kind of became lackadaisical, slothful in his writing stuff. Apparently, he has to use the same typewriter and whatnot, and yeah, I don't know. People are rather unsure as to whether he will come out with another book at all before he dies. He's pretty old these days. Yeah, he's old.
And the other co-creator, Dan Weiss, before anyone explained Game of Thrones or Tyrion Lannister to him, he made a simple request. No beard, no pointy shoes. Dwarves in these genres always have this look. My guard was up. Not even my guard, my metal fence. My barbed wire was up. Even Lord of the Rings had dwarf tossing jokes in it. It's like...
Okay. Shit you, man. That was awesome. That was awesome. I'm sorry. Like, I love that scene where Gimli's awesome as well. I don't think he's actually played by a dwarf, but man, he was like the most badass character in there. You know, dwarves actually, if I remember correctly, dwarves technically, they wouldn't have actually become wraiths. I think that they were kind of created to be very, very hardy as characters. So it's one of those things where, like, I think the idea was that the rings would maybe make them greedy, and that did happen, but they wouldn't have, like, faded like the other characters. They wouldn't have fallen to the rings in the same way, I think. It's kind of strange, but yeah, I love that scene.
Really? But he learned from Benioff and Weiss that Tyrion was a different kind of fantasy little person. He's somebody who turns that on its head. No beard, no pointy shoes, a romantic, real human being. Even off-screen, he seemed to take the part very seriously. When asked if he had read the books, he admitted that he'd only read the first in fear it would interfere with his performance in future seasons.
I don't want to know what happens to me down the road. I'm terrified.
Yeah. And that's a reasonable character. I mentioned he's kind of like George R.R. Martin's books are kind of a downer. Everyone dies. Okay? Everyone, like, it is up in the air as to who's going to, like, yeah, I don't know. Again, it's not my type of genre.
And I don't want to
intriguing and a lot of compelling characters, I think, but man.
Play any sort of ending.
Also, it's a little bit, explicit at times if I know correctly.
And I'm doing this show, and I just live and breathe this show, and I'm so embarrassed when you.
Yeah, why'd you have to?
But Dinklage initially believed that the potential success of Game of Thrones was too good to be true.
If something feels that good,
It's not gonna work.
it's not going to work. Nobody's going to buy this. In the first season, we didn't have any money, truly. I mean, it's all relative. We had some money. But even at the end, if you visit our base camp, our trailers were the same as they were in the first season. It was really, and I think that's what made the spirit of all of us come together so well. And the crew, we roughed it, man. You really would never know. Our salaries got higher as it went along, but the conditions were kind of great, like an indie movie almost. I mean, the sets were extraordinary. And the costumes were extraordinary. That didn't feel indie, but the vibe did. And I think that's what really, but to answer your question, no, I was kind of cynical.
I think another thing that kind of happened is if you listen to people talk about it, they say it started out great and it ended really poorly. I think that they started out pretty much like on point with regards to the books. Like they adapted it really, really well. But it kind of, got a little bit dodgy with regards to them making alterations and stuff like that. I think, as I understand it, they started taking more liberties and didn't end well, as I understand it. Ended very, very poorly, which seems to be a motif with regards to a lot of Hollywood stuff. They can start out the season really well, but then they get kind of too big for their boots, and they start making alterations, fixing things.
This is great. Nobody's going to go for it.
Over the next 4 seasons, his character became the fan favorite of the entire show. Peter Dinklage made Tyrion so believable and human that when fans began criticizing the show's writing near season 8, they blamed the writers instead of Dinklage for how the character
I think that can be the case too. Like, you can have a great actor. Like, I don't think that's like an unwarranted thing. I think you can have like a great actor with terrible writing, and they can do a lot, but they can't fix everything.
Evolved. Regardless of the way the show eventually ended, which many felt was terrible, Dinklage had finally gained the respect of Hollywood on a massive scale. He received 7 major awards, including an Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series, and with an estimated $25 million net worth and worldwide recognition, all the gates of Hollywood opened for Peter in a way that they never had for dwarves in the past. He was basically able to handpick any career opportunity he wanted, hosting Saturday Night Live, playing Bolivar Trask in the X-Men franchise, voice acting
Don't know who Bolivar Trask was.
in the Angry Birds movie, or acting as Eitri in Avengers Infinity War. Now, if Peter wanted to act as a dwarf,
That was kind of a cool fortune thing they did there in Infinity War. Did you ever see that character again? Literally, you just used a star to force it. Pretty cool.
it was a choice. I feel really lucky, although I hate that word, lucky. It cheapens a lot of hard work. Living in Brooklyn in an apartment without any heat and paying for dinner at the bodega with dimes, I don't think I felt myself lucky back then. Doing plays for $50 and trying to be true to myself as an artist and turning down commercials where they wanted a leprechaun, saying I was lucky negates the hard work I put in and spits on the guy who's freezing his ass off back in Brooklyn. So I won't say I'm lucky. I'm fortunate enough to find or attract very talented people. For some reason I found them and they found me.
So I just want to point out, fortune is technically a synonym for lucky. I do agree with him though. Like, there is a lot of work that goes into stuff, but I do think you have to take your breaks when you can get them. I guess maybe that would be my well-balanced, enlightened opinion.
Unfortunately, Peter Dinklage didn't seem to understand that his voice now carried a ton of weight in industry decisions. He had the kind of star power that can get people fired and even cause the production to stop if the vision didn't fit exactly what he wanted.
He's like a profoundly cool beard. I kind of want, Peter Dinklage, not necessarily this guy. This guy's beard is okay. That is astounding. It's a very cool look going on.
Fired and even caused the production to stop if the vision didn't fit exactly what he wanted. While it seemed like Dinklage
It's a tale as old as time, though. Like, if people get popular, they start to get entitled. And I'm not for sure how much of that is avoidable. Like, how possible is it for things which exist in your life to not become normalized, for you not to start expecting them and to stop appreciating them. Like, it's something to strive for, that type of awareness, and maybe it just has something to do with the notion of stagnation or just things becoming, like, I suppose you could try to upset your life every now and then to keep stirring the pot every now and then to allow yourself to keep noticing things and to keep appreciating the stuff around you. Maybe that's a part of it. Just I don't know. Every now and then, just make sure you change stuff up a bit. I don't know. I don't know if the answer's to all that, but it does feel like it's very hard for you not to get used to the life you lead and used to the things you have and to the power or influence you might have, and to start for that to not affect how you behave. I don't know.
Used to be a lot more careful with his words. He probably didn't feel like he needed to do that anymore. And his comments on the Marc Maron show would harm opportunities for the community he tried to uplift for so long.
And this is I believe the powder keg.
And it all started with the disaster that was the remake of a Walt Disney classic, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. In 2021, Disney started casting for the main roles in a live-action remake of Snow White, but before they even started filming, the entire decision was drowning.
Just to clarify, if you don't know the lore behind this wonderful young lady's comments had a lot to do, I think, well, I say a lot. It had to do with some of the issues that I believe plagued the movies. She's got a mouth, and she seems not to know when to exercise discretion.
In controversy, people were already resistant of live actions as a total cash grab, but the decision to cast Rachel Zegler for the main role received criticism for countless reasons. Some were racially driven, like questioning why a woman of Latin descent was playing a character whose skin is described as the fairest of them all. Others were critical.
And she is, like, Rachel Zegler, just, again, I say again, she's very duplicitous when it comes to this type of thing, because I don't know, it feels like in other scenarios, I believe she was cast in West Side Story, which is supposed to, like, she's not technically the right either nationality or something for that, and it's like, oh, does it, like, she will alternatively say representation is very important, and then in scenarios where it suits her, she's like, oh, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if you're... In the case of West Side Story, she wasn't race nationality, and she was like, oh, no, it's like, why does it matter? Like, yeah. There's not a whole lot of consistency. And that might be a general observation on the nature of actors as well, because they tend to... I don't know, I tend to think they're not the most morally consistent types of individuals. They're kind of maybe blank slates more. Hence the fact that they're good at acting.
Of her open hatred for the original story and desire to change it into something modern, but most people just simply thought she was annoying.
There's a big...
Yeah. That's certainly part of it.
...focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
And that was a thing that happened.
But then Peter Dinklage unexpectedly became a part of the controversy when the media pulled a soundbite from comedian Marc Maron's WTF podcast. Peter criticized Disney for celebrating the casting of Rachel Zegler while refusing to acknowledge that the story itself could be insensitive towards little people.
Literally no offense to anything, but I was a little taken back by the they were very proud to cast a Latino actress as Snow White.
Yeah.
But you're still telling the story of Snow White.
Yeah.
Seven Dwarfs.
Sure.
So, look, take a step back and look at what you're doing there.
Yeah.
I know. That makes no sense to me.
But,
you're progressive in one way, but you're still making that backward story of seven dwarves living in a cave to get what the you doing, man? Have I done nothing to advance the cause?
Now, for anyone...
I don't know, it might come off as a bit of a joke. Maybe it was like a lacking context, perhaps, or like, you know, I think you could interpret it in such a fashion. He says no offense to anyone or whatever, but he kind of goes on to come off like a pretty definitive position on the subject.
Unfamiliar with the story of Snow White, the dwarves do not live in a cave. They work in a mine.
I think they mine. Which, is that a dwarf stereotype?
But actually live together in a small cottage where they take Snow White in after she escapes the evil queen, making them quite literally the heroes of the story. Also, what's interesting,
They do. I could see how people would see, like, oh, it is kind of that stereotype of a, I don't know, magical, helpful little creatures or whatever, whistle while you work type thing. Like, I could see that a little bit. Still, though, it's just like the whole notion is, I don't know.
Interesting about this is
like however far CGI has come to, I think that is an element here too. However far CGI has come, they remarked upon this in the movie. It looked unsettling, from what I've heard. Like it was uncanny valley type stuff, like the way they had done the dwarves. And there's something like that. It's just like you still kind of, again, you can do tricks with lighting or whatever, but that's pretty expensive and rather labor intensive, I imagine, compared to just hiring a dwarf actor. Like, what the heck, Peter? What the heck?
Peter says, "Have I done nothing to advance the cause?" implying that his success as a serious actor, as well as speaking on behalf of little people, should have gotten through.
Just FYI, I don't think they should have cast a Latino actor. Like, I don't know. Just, I don't know. There's been a whole genre of that type of thing, too, where I think it was Mermaid. They've done, well, I say, I don't know if it's exactly a pattern, but it does feel like they are trying to be more diverse. The whole idea of that seems a little bit counterintuitive. If your solution to representation, which, like, admittedly, I don't even know if I would agree with representation, that it's a necessity or anything like that. Like, Hank Aaron, what was the lady on the bus? That lady, Jesse Owens, yes. At a certain point in time, I would say representation did matter. It did matter that you could see a black person go out there and do this stuff. It feels like these days it's just like the fifth abstract glass ceiling that needs to be shattered and an excuse to say that this is the first black paraplegic lesbian trans woman to do whatever. They're coming up with categories to break into, it feels like. Where was I going with this? And it comes back to the notion, if you're, like, advancing the cause of representation by taking a white character and making them other blank ethnicity, it just kind of comes off as, okay, so you can't create a new character? Like, are the people in this category, are they incapable of creating original stories, or are the people who write these stories incapable of making original characters tailor fit for this individual? But you're taking a character whose voice, whose role, whose personality is all oriented towards different group, different sex, different whatever, and you're just taking that person's role, giving it to another person. Like, I don't think it reflects well on the individuals who take those roles or their group, that you're just kind of cannibalizing another person's or another group's set of character. Like, I don't know. Feels like that whole notion would be counterintuitive to what they're ostensibly trying to do.
To Hollywood, that
actually, you can check out the rest of this if you want. Patrick CC, the backlash against Peter Dinklage is insane. Anyways, I think we're going to skip the history section thing. I was going to look at Prussia, but, you know. Alright. We're going to try to play some more Strange Brigade. I'll try to finish the chapter this time. Is this going up? No, Scheiße. There we go. All right. Let's see if it's actually... Yeah, we're good. We're good. All right. And I put this thing plugged in where it needs to be plugged in. All right. I think I'm gonna have to unplug the camera again. Sorry guys, I'm using a controller here, so I'm gonna have to. Won't be able to see my lovely face. All right. Fortescue. You ever heard that name before? Fortinbras Bartleby. All right. All right. Let's go witch hunting.
Blades of glory! I can think of a few good uses for these razor-sharp rotaries.
Really effective.
Some tip-top tumbling trickery there.
Hallelujah.
Oh, gold for Frank. See all the boats? Not one of them missing. That's a bad sign.
By Jove, they've a full amulet.
Remember that?
The spoils of victory.
Why did they say that? Okay, so maybe it comes from the word spoiling. But, like, you think of something that's spoiled, it's not good. But I think it has more to do with the notion of, like, spoiling something like
Picking up some ammo.
Maybe, pillaging? Maybe that would be kind of the idea.
Caged dead chaps. There's something you won't see at Regent's Park Zoo. Strong!
Punching zombie.
Fantastical firearms! Huzzah! Oh, a blunderbuss! How
How did that
brilliant!
Wait a second. Wait, do I get to keep this? Or is it like a... It's kind of a single-use type thing. Okay. No, I still have it. Alright. Maybe it's just kind of a, hey, you can keep this until you use it up? I assume?
Ammo. Cracking stuff.
So that does not refill, though. That does not refill, so I'm assuming this is kind of a thing you get and you can use for a while, but you can't refill it. So I'm assuming once it runs out, that's it. Alright. Let's see now. Try this.
Oh, jolly good, a puzzle. What lies within, I wonder?
Alright. Well, for the club. Alright, weird. Ox.
Not so hard.
Doubtful.
Dynamite out! Fire in the hole! Just what I need.
Come on.
An obscure find, to be sure, but well worth the effort. An ancient antiquity. A new addition for the brigade private collection, methinks.
Yes.
All for us, eh?
Alright. Alright. Just up. Shoot stuff.
A locked gate? An abandoned camp? The plot thickens.
Well, well, well. Ancient locks by shooting stuff. Very intuitive.
Look at the size of these blighters. Let's hope some swift gunplay could cut them down to size.
Those armored shells are gonna take some cracking.
But it doesn't kill them. Just makes it so you can't. Mother.
Easy does it. Oh, go for Frank.
that's the way forward. I'm thinking that's the way forward, and this is kind of like the scuttling. Shit, there we are. Actually, I don't know which is the way forward. So that's just leading back there. Money. Creepy. Ravishing relics. What amazing antiquities have you uncovered here, Strange Brigade? Collections full of a set of these astonishing artifacts should yield some riveting results, such as unlocking a new amulet power. Good hunting.
That'll look splendid on my mantelpiece.
Go away. I'm hearing a cat. Where's the stupid cat? What do I shoot? And where? And how? Why? Where is it? Where's the bloody cat?
Come on in, spooky sods.
Alright, so I think we're going through here. Oh, hello. There you are. Die, die.
I had a cat once. Once. That log looks jolly useful.
Alright, there we go. Come on. Come on, guys. Need to be able to use it for something, right? There's something about this whole era of kind of, I don't know, would this have been like early 1900s, late 1800s or something? It's just kind of very...
Just what I need.
Romanticized in my brain. Victorian era? Is that what they call it?
A key! I wonder what secrets this crafty little devil will unlock.
Okay. Okay, how do I get that? Oh. Is that it? There we go. When in doubt, shoot something.
Such lovely loot.
There we go.
Way ahead open! Onwards, Brigade! There's murderous mysteries and sinister secrets to be uncovered here.
Let's just make sure I'm full up on this stuff. Now,
That's better.
of course, I can only carry one of these at a time, so...
Useful. Should be useful.
So I can go to the arsenal. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. Skullbreaker gem. Bring the hammer down upon the skulls of your enemies. Extra damage on headshots. I'm not good enough at headshots. That's pretty good. No. There we go.
Crikey! Who the devil's throwing spears about?
Like
Oh
Aztec
no!
ninjas.
Armored attackers! Watch out, strange brigade!
Temple guard, spear throwing, sharpshooters aiming for the kill.
By Jove! Someone certainly doesn't want our heroes reaching that dig site.
Geyser. Okay. Okay, this is a bit dicey.
Bang on the money.
What the? Am I not? There we go. Now, probably should use the potion here, but can't get it there. Shit!
What's this? Sinister sorcery blocking the way? Perhaps using your amulet will clear the way forward.
I can use these.
And if I remember correctly, this is some sort of timed thing, I think.
By the River Nile! What paranormal padlock have our heroes managed to stumble upon here? This is quite the sinister development. And what's this? Yet more undead corpses rising to the occasion, and the blighters are wearing armor. How jolly unsporting of them.
Armored cadaver. Wonderful. Good. So they'd be happy. I get that guy. Hold on, I forgot about that. Forgot there were all these traps. Come back here! I'll bite your legs off.
One piece of unearthly evil destroyed. All thanks to the splendid efforts of the Strange Brigade. Incoming enemies and a trap-laden archway. Think fast, Brigade!
So I guess the armored guys aren't necessarily. They're just kind of take a few more shots.
Stay there.
Right, sir.
Ammo. Lovely stuff.
Everything's coming up flat.
Our heroes arrive at the dig site, but yet there's still no sign of their quarry.
You've reached the camp? Excellent. We need to know if Arvin's found and opened that tomb.
Search someplace for the corpses, find and kill the thing that made those corpses. Business as usual, really.
Well, there's the lock, but how to get the key? Best get looking, Brigade.
Oh, shit. Okay, is there actually like a basement here or something?
Oh, bully for you, Strange Brigade.
Oh, hold on. Hold on. Nope. Okay, did I miss something back along the way?
I'll have that.
Unfortunately, this is not. So I wonder if I missed some stuff back along the way. Oh no, here we go. Here we go. Is that supposed to be the base camp? The dig site? Whatever the heck it is.
Alright, let's have a look.
So this is a checkpoint, alright. I'm gonna take a quick run back here for a second and see if I missed something. So I feel like I didn't explore all. So this was the part where the lock was. And I can't go back now. That's unfortunate. I think I can. No, can't go back now, unfortunately. Well, that sucks. R2 to liberate souls. Find a potion. You know, I wish I could find a potion.
More of these beggars popping up. Someone clearly doesn't want our heroes getting inside this tomb.
Alright, really creepy. There we go. I don't like the skittering.
What ho? A puzzle could be solved. Best of luck, Strange Brigade.
Oh.
come to Frankie, you wonderful weapon, you.
Okay.
Oh, this huntsman should help you out.
So you can only have one of those at a time, though. Alright, maybe it'll help with the other guys. So it might be a thing where you just better try and use them while you can. Something. I don't know exactly how to open that.
Nice.
Pretty cool. For the moment. Shoot down here. Nope. Right here. Yeah. Alright, boo, you suck.
Yes, huzzah! Well spotted.
Again, you suck. Oh.
This will come in handy.
Pretty sure I just shot literally before I even...
What astounding agility.
Picking up some ammo.
Again, I think... if I go off, I come back to full health. Keep... I can keep a potion as well. I'm going to just end it here pretty much. Oh, there's the last one.
By Jove, I think you've cracked it.
I don't know where those puzzle pieces are, but... Find a scarab key. So is that was just to open the path forward? What exactly was that supposed to do? It doesn't give me the scarab key itself. Is it just supposed to open some pathway somewhere? Oh, that's what it's doing. Alright, there we go.
Aha, the key to success. Well found, Brigade. It belongs in a museum or in our bank accounts.
Alright, Sateki Legend 2. No royal tomb will be her resting place. No great pyramid built to honor her. Let her body be taken to some nameless place deep in the desert and left there. Let the low and vile creatures of the desert have her. Let the jackals hear her, tear away her flesh and feast upon her. Let the serpents and scorpions nest among her forgotten bones. Hear these prayers from we, the servants of the goddess Wadjet. And know of the hellish reign of this demon in human flesh that men call Seteki. Wedge! Sorry, I gotta stop. I don't gotta stop, but it's getting tired. So I'm hoping this will checkpoint the progress-ish.
Oh dear. Truly a somber moment for the brigade here. Poor Veronica's paid the ultimate price, it would seem.
Uh-huh. I'm thinking...
It's always the good ones.
Riveting reading. Oh, huzzah, what a treat.
Worst fears confirmed by your last message. Strongest brigade expedition. What? Okay, we're the strange brigade and they're the strongest brigade? Boo! The strongest brigade expedition assembled and en route to Egypt with utmost urgency. Deeply concerned about your personal safety. Confirm you are well and secure and in a secure place while you await the brigade arrival. Uh-huh. Alright. Alright. In any case, I think that's all we're doing for today. Thank you guys for watching, and have a lovely weekend. And a happy 4th of July.